I am loose today. I'll tell you about that after late night jokes. There's a lot of new listeners. I don't want them to be like, shut up, tell some jokes. Jimmy Kimmel said Republicans are handling the president with kid gloves because those are the only gloves that will fit him. Kimmel again. Here's a question. Are we sure Donald Trump isn't just stuck in a White House bathtub and too embarrassed to call for help? Trevor Noah said, MAGA fans rejoice because Bill Barr's on the case. Yes, the same Bill Barr who investigated Obama and found nothing, with the same Department of Justice that investigated Hillary and found nothing. So if you're looking to find nothing, you know the man to call. Trevor, looks like Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham are also partnering with Trump to undermine the election, which is a terrible idea, but I would love to see these three together in a heist movie. Kimmel, we're basically ignoring the president of the United States like he's a crazy guy on a subway platform. He's ranting and raving. We just raise the volume on our AirPods and hope he doesn't shove us into an oncoming train. Kimmel, even with all this tension, Trump has not lost a sense of humor. For instance, he tweeted, "We will win," which is funny. We have a reality show host who will not accept reality. Fallon said the president has gone from firing people on reality TV to denying the reality that he's fired. Colbert, should our entire political system be arranged to solve the wounded feelings of the guy who lost? You never saw Truman hold up a newspaper that said, Dewey defeats Truman. Let him have this one for a few weeks. He needs it. Kimmel, Trump's like the guy who puts 20 plays of Achy Breaky Heart on the jukebox before he leaves the diner. I remember many, many years ago doing that with Phil Collins' Take Me Home at a pizzeria. They were not amused. Fallon, but Trump's staff is trying to help him move on. He spent the day hanging Pier 1 signs all over the White House that say, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Seth Meyer said, dude, I would say the writing's on the wall, but you never built one. Fallon, Trump's like the guy who knows he's broke and still has the way to run his credit card 10 more times. Trevor, I mean, he wants to cling on to power as long as he can. And also, golfing isn't as much fun when you're not missing work to do it. Fallon, yep. Trump just doesn't know when it's time to pack it in. I mean, even the creators of The Walking Dead are like, enough already. So yeah, I mentioned I'm loose. I don't know why. I got up and I came down to the studio and I started recording a bunch of Thanksgiving tracks for the weekly comedy thing. That's the show I host on Live by Live/Slacker. If you want to check that out, it's kind of like this, but I also play stand-up bits in between, Live by Live, Live X Live. The Thanksgiving shows, you know, there were predictable events like the JIM Gaffigan bit about Thanksgiving. I can pre-record that now. Adam Sandler has a Thanksgiving song, and you know I love it. So yeah, I just came down here and I started doing voice tracks, and I'm feeling good today. If you like what I do here, do me a favor. Share the show on your social media. I see Rennie is one of the listeners. Rennie does that every day. Rennie, thank you very much for doing that. I've been chatting on the Facebook.com/Daily Comedy News page with Susan a little bit. I appreciate you, as you know. So everybody, if you can help share the show, I would appreciate that. I think I also forgot to share with you. I'm trying to be really transparent here because I know there are ads on the podcast and some people are like, oh, enough with the ads. Look, if I can make a couple bucks from this, we all like a couple bucks. I'm not going to lie. It's the whole idea. The fantasy is that I sit on the beach, riff some comedy news, and then go sit at the bar all day. I mean, who's kidding who? But in October, I generated $146.72 from the ads you hear on the show. So I'm not rich yet, but just want to let you know what's going on. All right, Sebastian Maniscalco spoke to bicycling.com. That is not easy to say. Believe me, I had to edit out the first 5 mistakes. He's talking about an e-bike he got from the e-bike company. Sebastian got a free e-bike. I don't begrudge him. I'm jealous. But if the e-bike company wants me to say their name, they're going to have to send me a free e-bike. But he said, I had such a blast on the unnamed e-bike. People go, why do you need an electric bike? It defeats the purpose of riding a bike. And Sebastian said, well, when you're going up hills at a 90-degree angle, you need a little assistance. All right. I'm not Lance Armstrong. This ain't the Tour de France. On HBO Max today, you will find Colin Quinn's new special. This was the one that was filmed at a drive-in. It's called Colin, Quinn and Friends, a parking lot comedy show. Filmed in Brooklyn on September 1st, it features Rich Voss, Rachel Feinstein, Bonnie McFarlane, Keith Robinson, Chris DiStefano, Marina Franklin, Dan Soder, Bobby Kelly. See, it's interesting here. Okay, good. I'm not crazy. It says Bobby Kelly. Total tangent here. I got in the habit way back when I used to run SiriusXM Comedy of referring to the comedian as Bobby Kelly. Along the way, I started to see in print more and more Robert Kelly. Clearly his name is Robert Kelly, but the comedians all call him Bobby Kelly, and I'm in the habit of calling him Bobby Kelly. And then I'll see these stories that say Robert Kelly, and I feel like maybe I'm the oddball that's wrote Bobby Kelly. But interesting that this says Bobby Kelly. I digress. Dan Soder, Bobby Kelly, and SNL Sam J., whose stand-up special 3 in the Morning debuted on Netflix August 4th. That, by the way, can you tell I'm hyper today? Sam J., I can't forget. Do I like Hannah Gadsby's Douglas or Sam J's 3 in the Morning? Those are my top 2 specials of the year. Sarah Cooper is my least favorite special of the year, by the way, in case you didn't know. But yeah, I think I had Sam J number 1 and Hannah number 2, but I can't remember. Anyway, those are the people that are on HBO Max's Colin, Quinn and Friends, a parking lot comedy show. Most of the comedians on the show admit to being rusty. Marina Franklin tells the crowd, Colin wanted us to do new jokes, which is really kind of an a-hole thing to do. So check that out. All right, quick break, and then I'll tell you about Prince Harry. Jon Stewart is back with Stand Up for Heroes November 18th. That is Wednesday night. You'll be able to watch this thing on the ABC News Over the Top channel. It'll be on TikTok and Facebook Watch, I think they said. You know about this thing? It's an annual event that John does, and funds raised go to the Bob Woodruff Foundation. They help veterans. For the last 14 years, the Stand Up for Heroes event has continued to inspire our nation and serve as the perfect reminder of all the brave individuals that defend our country. This year, it's especially important that we unite to show support for the sacrifices as we come together to virtually stand for our heroes. Here's who's on the show. Bruce Springsteen. He's always on the show. I want to crack that he's not a comedian, but you knew that. But Bruce is on the show. Nate Bargatze, he is. Ronny Chieng, Sheryl Crow, not. Tiffany Haddish. That's not a dig at Sheryl Crow. I dig her music. She's just, not a comedian. Brad Paisley. Patti Scialfa is going to come by with her husband, Bruce Springsteen. Iliza Shlesinger. And special appearances by Prince Harry. I'll get back to that in a second. Ray Romano. And it says Jeannie Gaffigan. So under special appearances, it says Jeannie Gaffigan. It doesn't mention JIM Gaffigan at all. It says Jeannie Gaffigan. And I don't know, when you're reading this, I don't expect the sentence to go special appearances by Prince Harry, Ray Romano, and Jeannie Gaffigan. I would expect to hear the word Jim in that sentence. It's not a dig. It's just catching my eye that it's unexpected. Anyway, this thing is Wednesday night. All right, Prince Harry will be taking part of this. I'm not sure why. But it's a great opportunity for me to promote a different podcast. That podcast is called Palace Intrigue. I'm the writer on that show. Palace Intrigue is about the royal family. It's kind of like Daily Comedy News if you got rid of all the comedy parts, except for the occasional crossover where Prince Harry's doing stand-up. Every now and then, once a year, maybe the two shows overlap. But most days, Prince Harry does not do stand-up. Palace Intrigue. It's about the royal family. I write it. My friend Mark hosts it. And it's like 5 minutes about what the royals are up to. And I'm telling you, as the person who writes it, they're always up to something. And this is timely because The Crown is out this week. Do you watch The Crown? The Crown is awesome. You should watch The Crown on Netflix. I love The Crown, which is what got me into this royal family stuff. And now I write this podcast every day for Mark to voice. And it's incredible. Harry and Meghan, they are always in the news. And they always give those two a hard time, every day. Every day. Palace Intrigue. Subscribe to it wherever you get your shows. The Sydney Morning Herald wrote about that Aunty Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun. That's the new Netflix series I told you about yesterday. I think I'm going to like this thing now. Unfortunately for Aunty Donna, the Xbox has arrived. Haven't plugged it in yet. That's the next thing I'm doing today. And the PlayStation is on its way. So I don't know how much Netflix is getting out of me this weekend, but Aunty Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun sounds like it's pretty cool. As the Sydney Morning Herald writes, it's not an easy show to categorize or even describe. I'm in. It's not a sitcom, but to call it a sketch show seems a terribly reductive way of describing the relentless flow of inspired silliness and flights of demented imagination that each episode comprises. I'm in. There's a whiff of the young ones in the shenanigans. I'm in. A hint of the mighty boosh in the philosophy. I'm in. You Americans don't know what the mighty boosh is. The British are like, we all know what the mighty boosh is. I didn't say you guys don't know. I said the Americans don't know what the mighty boosh is. Mighty boosh is great. You'll find that on Hulu. I have been watching that. The lightest sprinkling of Tim and Eric in its constant warping of expectations. But pinning it down, I'm leaving that in. But pinning it down is an impossible task. Suffice it to say, if you held up a mirror to a normal comedy show, smashed the mirror to smithereens, and pieced it back together blindfolded, something like Aunty Donna might emerge. That sounds awesome. Oh, the Sydney Morning Herald has more. They say, so how does such a show, for which the word weird is hilariously inadequate, gain the attention of Hollywood big shots like Ed Helms? You know Ed Helms. He's the guy that ruined the last 4 seasons of the... Oh, shh, don't say that. You're supposed to love all The Office. Shh, don't say that. The bona fide movie star who acts as executive producer on House of Fun and also guest stars in one episode. One of the Aunty Donna said, we got an email from a random guy in the U.S. that was like, hey, I saw your video on Reddit. I really liked it. I think it's a place for you here. Do you want to come over and pitch? They didn't know if they were being catfished until the elevator door opened and the agency's name was on the wall. And they were like, thank God. With the Netflix deal came some heavy-duty helping hands. Apart from Helms, the series features names like Paul F. Tompkins, who I love, Weird Al, who I really love, Scott Aukerman, and Kristen Schaal. See what I did there? I love Kristen. I have a good story about drinking with Kristen until 5 a.m. one time. We had a very fun time. Yet surprisingly, the deal didn't come with dictatorial control by Netflix. The Aunty Donna said, I remember thinking going to our first few meetings with Netflix, they would be like, we're the big guys. You do exactly what we say. It was 100% the opposite. They were so non-obtrusive and so chilled out. The Sydney Morning Herald wraps the article with, the steadfast refusal to occupy the middle ground is Aunty Donna's strongest hallmark. The Tommy gun assault of sight gags, non sequiturs, songs, formal deconstruction, and inexplicable tangents, all bubbling forth from an intellectual source clearly steeped in decades of Australian pop culture, is almost precisely calibrated to make a large segment of the populace hate it, even as an equally large segment goes into raptures. That sounds like exactly the kind of thing I would be into. I will have to check that out. Oh, I wanted to tell you about this Bert Kreischer thing, but this thing is getting long. The short version there is listening to the podcast. A good one. Maybe I'll tell you about Bert tomorrow. From Vulture, I do want to get to this. Hey, did you see when Maya Rudolph came out dressed as Kamala Harris and she was wearing that white pantsuit, I guess? Vulture says they had 85 minutes to design that thing. They went in the closet and they found it was a suit purchased. It was originally going to be for Cecily Strong to play Melania Trump in a sketch. They never used it. And they say, we can all agree the suit ended up serving a much nobler purpose in the end. Good for her, meaning the suit. That episode did the best ratings 18 to 49 in more than 3 years. A 2.6 rating among adults 18 to 49, best since May 2017. It drew 9.06 million viewers. That's a lot of people, especially when you think the thing is on 11:30. That is the most since December 2019 with host Eddie Murphy. Eddie drew 9.96 million. Now, remember the end of the show yesterday? I told the sad story of the comedian who passed away, and I cracked that I would bring you down again. I saw another sad story. I don't have it in me to do it here because it'll just sound like I'm being an asshole and looking for sad stories or not taking it seriously. Google Rajiv Nigam. Hope I'm saying your name right. First name, Rajiv, R-A-J-E-E-V, and the last name is spelled N-I-G-A-M. You will find a heartbreaking story at the other end of your Google search. But again, I don't want to do it here because it'll just seem like I'm being a douche, and I don't mean that at all. That's your comedy news for today. All right, follow on Spotify. You've all got homework. You're going to share this on social media. You hear how hopped up I am today. Back me up, team. Follow on Spotify. Subscribe on Apple. Share on social media. Catch you tomorrow.